Hi, I'm Brandon Jack, and I'm hanging out with Zero Hanger.
You were there
Yeah.
at the club at the time.
You know I'm a former football player who's written it. You're questioning, like, could this stuff have actually happened? How much of this happened? Because could footy players have done this? Is this something they would do?
And then I had this full PTSD moment. I was like, I remember this game. And this guy, he smashed us.
They're reading it like this. And I'm like, don't worry, none of it's your partner's, like, not any of these guys kind of.
Hey mates, today we are hanging out with Brandon Jack, ex-Sydney Swan, and more importantly, author of the book PISSANTS, which has just come out. Definitely give it a read. It's a really cool chat that we did with Aidan Cellini as well. And we talk about the Bloods culture, his time at Sydney, but more importantly, finding identity after a football career as an author. So let's get to it. So I've decided that I'm going to kick off every interview with a specific question, because I feel like it tells a lot about a person. What is your morning routine?
Well, what is my morning routine? Well, firstly, it's an honor to be the first guest on Hanging Out. I mean, I'm really excited to be down in Melbourne chatting to you guys. I've followed your stuff for a while, and you guys have been good supporters of my work as well, so it's great to sit down and finally chat. My morning routine is I actually have quite a structured one at the moment. So I do some journaling in the morning. So I wake up and make a morning coffee. And I've done this the whole year. I did that thing where I set a New Year's resolution. You know, I'm going to stick to it. And I have, thankfully. I make a coffee, and then I go back into my room and sit on my bed with my journals, and I look at what's on for the day, and I write one thing about the day before that was the highlight of that day. Yeah. And then I have a little book of kind of philosophy, stoic readings that kind of give me something to think about for the day. I've done that for the whole year, and some days it just feels like a chore, but sometimes it just kind of keeps me in track, and I need those little routines. I definitely do.
Okay, we made some predictions. Well, I made some predictions prior to coming in. So I thought it was either going to go that way, where you sort of work into the morning a little bit, have your little coffee, do your journal. I'll have a very similar one. Yeah. Or because you're an artist, you're an author, creative. It could go the other way, where you just like roll out of bed and just get to whatever you got to get to.
I think maybe the footy side of me is very, very strict still, and I'm a very time conscious, time anxious person. Like, I'm never late to anything. I get so nervous about being late to things. So I'm very rigid with a lot of things in my life. So the creative part of me is kind of kept in check by this rigid footy conformity stuff that I've always just kept around.
Love it. Okay. Well, that sort of sums you up, doesn't it? Like, it's
we
colliding
done?
two worlds.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Well, we may as well start then with the book. The reason you're here, PISSANTS. So is it PISSANTS or PISSANTS?
PISSANTS, yeah. And that's how I say it. I think some people say pissant, but it's PISSANTS, and I
would say PISSANTS.
Yeah, you're a pissant.
We had a guy in yesterday that was saying pissant, and I was like, have I got it wrong?
Yeah, no, I think the more, I don't know, some circles would say pissant, and that's more of, I take that as like less of an Aussie bogan way to say it, and I'm like, I just say pissant. Yeah. PISSANTS. What do you got for me?
Well, full disclosure, I've only read the first chapter. Aidan's read the whole thing.
Thanks,
so
Aidan.
Maybe we'll throw to Aidan.
I liked it. So again, fiction book.
Yeah.
I guess tell us where it came from, how it started. We understand that you did write a memoir shortly after your time in the game, as a former Swans player. And I guess maybe your journey through writing and how you came up with PISSANTS.
The journey post-footy was finished footy career at 23, got delisted by the Swans, and looked out at the world, and I had no skills. I had no resume, didn't know what the hell I was going to do with my life. The only thing I knew I could do was write. I'd always been a good writer, and I'd gravitated towards writing a lot in my life. So I started writing some opinion pieces for the newspaper, doing some journalism work, and then got a copywriting job, and kind of started developing as a writer. Well, I went to uni and studied some writing stuff as well, but I think the way you become a writer is to read a lot and to write a lot. It doesn't matter about studying it. And then eventually the idea came up to write a book, and that was 28, which was the memoir, which you guys did a really good review of when it came out, I remember, which I was grateful for. But 28 was a book about the normal footy career book is a champion player, 300 games, premiership player. Like, as they retire, you get their story. Mm-hmm. And I was 23 when I was delisted, 28 games to my name. Didn't have that career and was really lost, and I think that was a pretty common experience that a lot of people endure. So I wrote about it. I wrote about feeling lost as a young, in your mid-20s, the thing I wanted to do my whole life is now in the rearview mirror. Who the fuck am I as a person? What do I do? And it ended up becoming a really raw book that did quite well and resonated with a lot of people. And I still get messages about it today and do talks at schools about it, which is nice. I think there's some schools that study it, so it hit the right places for some people. 28 came out as the first book, and then I really didn't feel like an author, though. I didn't feel like I'd done anything new or created something. I just had written my own life story down. It felt like I was kind of cheating in a way. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to write the next book after that. I'm like, I started writing straight away. And after that, there was 2 years of false starts and books that started, did 50, 60,000 words in them, but then they were just shit. Like they were just bad books. I was forcing it. And my publisher was like, I think you kind of have something else in you, Brandon. Like, I just don't think what you're writing now is your voice. And then eventually literally the first line of PISSANTS just came to me. I was sitting at home, and the opening line came to me as like, I can't see Mud's eyes through his mask, but I can tell from here he's shitting it. That's thereabouts the opening line. And that voice to me was like, I know this guy. I know this voice. And then over the next 3 to 6 months, it was every day another voice would come. Kind of hear voices in your head as a writer, and you start laughing at them. But yeah, different voices would come, and I would write those down, and it was a joy to write. It was 3 to 6 months of sitting in my room laughing with characters I really enjoyed writing. And then yeah, the publisher really liked it. I got lucky because it's a bit of a bloody weird book to pitch. It's like, yeah, this is about a bunch of like degenerate young footy players who kind of like do all these debaucherous things. Do you want to sell that to people? It's not really a commercially viable book in some regards, but I think there's enough people that will enjoy the stories, see themselves in the stories, see people they know in the stories, for it to still hit people. So yeah, it was a journey to get there, but yeah, I'm glad it was what it was. What it is.
And I think for those who read it and will read it, we'll kind of try to draw links to where you drew inspiration for some of these characters. As you said, debauchery was kind of the word that you did use in terms of some of the stories. Now, it is a fictional book, yes. But also, you know, we know you as a footy player, but also so much more to you. Where did you, I guess, draw inspiration from these characters? Was it just so wide-ranging? Or I
think the legal team gave me a card to read out when this question gets asked. Every writer draws from their life. It's with fiction, the reason so many books have main characters who are writers is because writers don't know any other life, so they just write about themselves, and the character's a writer then. I know the footy world so deeply, having spent 5 years in a professional environment, that's what feels natural and authentic to write. I mined my life for stories for sure, and there's characters in there who I had an idea of them, but then I added something from somebody else I knew, and every character became a mix of 4 or 5 people plus just things I imagined. So there's a lot of it that people who were around it at the time will read it and be like, oh, I remember something like that happening. But the beauty of fiction is you can then take that and add to it, tear it apart, change it. And that's why, you know, I think the book works, and a big part of why the book works is because, you know, I'm a former football player who's written it. So you kind of assume, or you're questioning, like, could this stuff have actually happened? How much of this happened? Because if you believe all of it happened, then it's kind of not really fiction anymore. But if you believe none of it happened, then what's the point? So I want people to read it and be like, hang on, could footy players have done this? Is this something they would do? It reflects on what people think, what people hold about footy players in their own minds.
In terms of mining things from your life, because I spent a good part of my 20s doing stand-up comedy, and all of that is very much you're just taking stories that happen in your life and then dressing them up a little bit. Yeah. So comparing 28 to PISSANTS, what was harder in the process in terms of mining from your life? Like, did you feel more, because I almost feel sometimes like a guilt of taking things from my life and then putting them out on stage so people can laugh at it.
I felt for 28, I actually felt really guilty. When I think a lot of people who write nonfiction feel this, because you're writing about real people and you're using their real names. I changed some names here and there for people who are still in the industry, and I didn't want it to affect them or people to change their views of them. But you're writing about real people and you're not giving them the right of response. And you do come away from that feeling like a bit of an asshole. And I struggled with that after 28. There was a few people in my life who I was like, oh, fuck, I would hate to, I would shrink up if I saw them. And who knows, maybe they didn't even care, but you still feel that shame, like you said. When it came to PISSANTS, anytime I did feel like it was too obviously somebody, I felt uncomfortable as well. So I would change it and I would want to blend it a bit more. So there's definitely an instinct about, I mean, as a writer, you make the choice. As a comedian, you make the choice. How much of the truth are you going to tell? And do you care what the people think if they hear it about themselves? And I was conscious of it. Yeah. I wanted to blur it where it felt too obvious. I didn't want anyone reading it to be like, hey, that's actually really clearly me. And I don't like how I come across here. Yeah. So it was a consideration.
Did you, because one thing that I would do is for specific things that, it's obvious who they're about, did you clear any stories with anybody before putting them in? No.
I mean, I thought you were going to say like you changed their hair color or something. It's like, no, it's a blonde guy. You've got brown hair. It's a different person. I had some friends I had one friend who I played with who I kind of got to read the stories as they were coming along. And if he had have picked up that he was like, oh, I don't know how the guys will feel about this, I would have then gone. But when writing, it was very much being an author is being a writer and an author is a selfish thing at times. And you make the decision that like, no, my main priority is the book and the writing work. And that may affect some friendships I have and may affect, relationships in my life, but that's a trade-off. That's my main priority is being a writer. And if it affects a friendship in a certain way, then that's sad. But for me, the focus is the writing right now. Yeah.
Has it affected any?
No, everyone. No, I've got.
Or you get good reviews out of?
Yeah, no, the guys who were around the Swans, because my stories are from that time of the Swans loosely. They've all found it very funny. They've all found it funny, and even I'm getting messages from partners of those players who are just like, they're reading it like this, and I'm like, don't worry, none of it's your partner's like not any of these guys, kind of. Kind of. But no, I've been getting it's been nice. It's been, getting funny messages from them, or just them being like, God, this takes me back. And that was actually, it's odd because 28, I was in a really negative space about football. And I was searching to justify or to find meaning in football, and I was still really negative about it. Whereas PISSANTS is, it's dark and there's a bit of loneliness to it, but there's a lot of laughter and a lot of humor and the joy that I couldn't muster with 28 because it just wasn't there for me. It's kind of come through in this, and that's how I hope when people read it, they, there's a lot of talk about male loneliness that comes through in it, not really deliberately, but it's there. But I hope people read it and are like, wow, this is actually. I know this is kind of twisted what these guys are doing, but it's kind of funny, and I can see why somebody would be really drawn into this and why you would want to hang around with this group. Yeah.
So, I mean, part of that framework, as you said, like it is, I guess, based in a footy world, but it's not necessarily a footy book. Now, you touched on maybe themes that you didn't deliberately, I guess, address in the book, but, male bonding, loneliness, and all that. And I felt when I read it, it was a sense of rawness as well, that, as you alluded to, it could be like me. It could be my teammate that I play with at a local footy club. It could be someone that I've revered at the top line. Was that always, I guess, kind of not necessarily the target, but I guess what you were writing, or was it more so just, I mean,
it's hard. This is a question that I really struggle with, and I feel because I don't like bullshitting and being like, I sat down to write about the intricate male bonds that exist and how I could write you that and be like, yeah, sure, but I sat down and. Maybe that was going on in the back of my mind because I've lived it and it just seeps through in the writing. But I sat down with these characters and I just wanted to write characters who felt real to me and who seemed authentic and made me laugh and who I cared about. And then through them, there's themes that come. And I think if I was to write a book like this where just it's men doing stupid shit the whole time without that some awareness of like, there's got to be a leveler here. You've got to kind of still discuss the bonding and the loneliness that comes through there. Then it would be a shit book. Then it would just be like, this is just dudes behaving badly. Like, what are we getting from this? I think just my experiences in life and having endured that in my early 20s and then removing myself from the footy world for a while and coming back has given me the perspective that comes through not intentionally. I feel really fake as an author if I'm trying to get a message across because it's preachy.
Yeah.
And it's I should have just written a book of essays then. Like if you want to preach about male loneliness, then like write an essay. But for me, it was writing characters who they expressed that, but it wasn't me trying really hard for that.
Yeah.
Does fictionalizing and characterizing, like pulling from your experiences, does that sort of change the way that you like remember that time? Because you know how like your present day can sort of affect the way that you remember things and your memories. So does that sort of now color, or are we too close to the publishing of the book to sort of
somebody asked me the other day, like, what did you learn while writing this? I'm like, I don't think I learned anything because I already knew all of this stuff, and that's why I could write the book. But it did just really hit me about how funny some of those moments were back then, and but why I really needed them. Why I was in like a, as a 20-year-old footy player who was on the fringe of the team, not getting a game. I was going out drinking a lot with my teammates, and we were just like playing FIFA all the time and just like giving each other nicknames and shit like that. Like we do that all the time. And I think I got to my mid-20s and would have like pushed away from that idea and be like, that's just stupid male shit. Like, why are we doing that?
Yeah.
Now it's, again, maturing again. Your beliefs mature, you kind of reflect on things. I'm like, we did that because it's the only way we knew how. And if you took that away from us completely, we would just be sitting staring at our feet. Like, and that would be real fucking loneliness. If there's just a bunch of guys that are sitting there without any means of communication to interact with each other, and you just expect them to change how they behave and expect them overnight to be like, well, hey, don't go out and bond that way anymore. It's like, they don't really know how. And that, I think that's, above all, I think that's what the book represents to me now as well. It's a group of guys who are raised a certain way, excel in the football world or social circles because they behave a certain way. And if you do pull the rug from them about behaving that way, what you get is just this falling. Like, they're really falling. They don't know what the hell to do. So, maybe it's taught me that. Maybe I have learned something from it. Shit, who knows?
Yeah. Well, so you are removed from it now. So like that, but when you were at the Swans and playing professionally, the sort of guidance that you were getting, do you feel that that's changed now? So like even the discussion of male loneliness that's happening now, I think it is like very prevalent now, and we're much more aware of it now. But it wasn't that long ago that you were at the Swan. Was that something that would come up?
Not with any depth.
Yeah.
No. And I think footy clubs are changing at the moment as well. There's this really interesting thing happening in footy clubs where I think they are, no doubt some bad shit goes on there still.
Yeah.
No, you always hear stories of stuff and you're like, fuck me, really?
Oh, yeah.
I think there is a softening around how hard they are on each other. And I was talking to Tommy Mitchell yesterday on his podcast. We'll give Tommy a shout out. There you go. So he's been at 3 clubs now. He's been at Collingwood and Hawthorn after the Swans. And the difference between the Swans, like the Bloods culture kind of myth that's there. But that was really fucking hard on a lot of us. It was great for, I kind of say maybe it was a necessary price of success for that team. Maybe the price of success for sustained period is that a few people get really fucking hurt by it. And me and Tommy and a few other guys just happen to be those guys. It was ruthless there. And some of the stuff we did, like, sitting on a chair in front of 45-year teammates, getting honest feedback. And feedback's good. You need feedback. But getting almost torn to shreds at time with feedback and just having to sit there as an 18, 19-year-old and take it. And if you do kind of revolt back against it or show some, like, if you just kind of suck at it, then you're not doing it right. You just got to take it. And that was really hard, but you steel yourself for it. Now I think footy clubs are changing a bit. I think there's a sense of, and you guys would see this, the way social media has worked in footy clubs as well, and the players are now promoting themselves more, and there's less of a fit into the mold stuff happening, and coaches and playing groups are seeing a lot of success. Collingwood's a great example. They're seeing a lot of success when you embrace individualism and let people express themselves. And I was out of the system, 8 years ago now? So in that time, I'd say the past couple of years it's really changed, but in 8 years, I'd say it's changed a fair bit. Maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe this generation coming through didn't have the kind of hard-nosed stuff that we had growing up as much, and they've always been free to express themselves in that way. So there's a definite change.
Yeah. So we're saying that TikTok brought love to footy.
That's a great quote. Well, it is, and it's fun to, like, And I have this odd thing. So when I watch Jack Ginnivan, like, divides me because I love seeing him do his thing, and you want to watch because of him.
Yeah.
But there's always a part of me that's like, if I was at a footy club with a guy doing that, you'd just be like, what the fuck are you doing, mate? Like,
it feels performative, and maybe that's the Australian part of it, like the tall poppy thing, where it's like
totally
somebody's a little bit too performative, then you want to chop them down.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, as someone that works in media and content, it's great content. Like,
it is, and it gets people excited about footy, and it gets like, so this year I haven't watched a whole heap of footy, but seeing some of the stuff seeing Bailey Smith's kind of interviews and the way he talks to the media now, and he's just he's like a character now. He's not. Yeah. I think we were so media trained for such a long period where it's boring as shit. Like no one wants to hear the same. There's a chapter in the book where I do this interview where there's what the player is saying versus what they're really meaning on the other side of the page. And it's like, no one really means like, oh, I just want to like, competition for spots is really hot. If I get my chance, I'll do my best to take it. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that TikTok bought Love the Footy is I'm gonna steal that. That's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think there is something I think it is that, but I think it is a bit performative. But by all reports, that is just generally how those guys are, because that's just the generation that they've grown up in. And I'm not saying that I'm not performative. I mean, like I'm sitting here on a podcast talking footy, but going back to the Bloods culture thing. So we did want to talk about a little bit about your career, but that was something that's always sort of puzzled me. So again, I played 1 year of junior footy, and then I quit.
How'd you go?
I kicked a goal, and then I just quit. Okay. And then I stopped going. I probably played like 3 months of junior footy, mostly back pocket. They threw me into the forward pocket once. Got a handball off from I think it was Damien McGann, and then straight through the big six, and then just quit, retired because I'd peaked. I was like, I'm not going to do do anything better than this.
Finished on a high.
Yeah. And I've now forgotten where I was going. With
Bloods
that.
culture.
But, Bloods culture. So what does that actually mean? Because like from the outside perspective, just as a footy fan, it just, to me, it's like, I think you spoke about it on your podcast with Dill Bucky a few years ago. It's like, it's just a certain number, like some values and whatnot. But how does that actually affect you in the day to day as a footballer?
So the Bloods culture it was like, you go into the Swans as a young player and you get introduced to it, and it's really serious at the time, and there's a set of values they have, and the values kind of changed over time, but you have this set of values that goes in the back of your locker, and it's very simple stuff. It's like stuff that you don't really need reminding of, but it bonds the group together, right? So, and again, having only been at one footy club, I have nothing really to compare it to, but speaking to other footy players and at various points having walked around other footy clubs, you see that every club has a set of values, right? Every club has 3 words they can define themselves by. And these words are always the same shit. It's like united, disciplined. It's like together. I think the Giants, like, we stand tall. It's like everyone's got these marketing terms that they can use to define themselves, and you need that to buy in. Like, you just need simple things to buy into. How it looks, I mean, there's stories from the Swans that, like, if somebody was late to a session or slept in, then we would go to the beach at 5 a.m, Maroubra Beach at 5 a.m, and do push-ups on our knuckles together, which was probably one of the more hectic things we did. And I remember those sessions were like, we'd all circle up. The person who was late would like be in the middle. And sometimes they would make them not do the push-ups, so they had to watch. It's like, that's mental shit. Like, so they had to watch us doing the push-ups, and it's like, and if they went to go down, the captain would be like, "Nah, stand up. You got to watch us do it."
Yeah.
And I remember, like, you'd be knuckles on the concrete, and you kind of learned that if you put your thumbs down, you could take a bit of weight off, like little cheats. But then somebody would be like, "No thumbs," and you'd have to tuck them away. So, like, there was some hectic shit like that we did, which, I'm sure if you go deep enough, other clubs will do something similar, but the Swans have a certain mystique, mythology around it. And there were parts of it that were great and that, I think have instilled something in me today that I'm grateful for. But like I said, I think there was a few of us who came in post 2012 grand final. The Swans won that grand final and were really successful for a period, still are after that. But there was a few of us who just, because we could never kind of crack into the team, we felt it really heavily. We felt, again, when I was talking to Tommy yesterday, there's this sensation of like, we're just not good enough. And it affected us more than just football. It affected us with anxiety and a few other things in just day-to-day life. And I still feel I see a psych. I've seen a psych since I finished playing footy for a number of reasons, but definitely in my life post football, there's been this sensation of like I'm not good enough, and that's been something that's still kind of comes through with a bit of writing I do. I often feel it, but it was a big thing for me in my early 20s to continually be told like you're not good enough this week. You're not good enough this week. It kind of eventually becomes a story you tell yourself. Yeah.
Was that something that you felt you had before entering that high performance environment? Like, did you already sort of lean that way? Because, of course, and I don't mean this is going to sound bad to bring this up. This is the worst time to bring this up. But of course, your brother was very successful. Your father had you came from an elite sporting background.
I came from a family of athletes, and Dad played for Australia, rugby league for Australia. Kieran was the captain of the Swans when I was there, and there's this odd thing where I always looked up to them and wanted those things, and felt a sense of failure. I think the failure I felt was extra heavy as a result of that. I could never just take pride in the 28 games I played because, in my family, like Dad played 240 and Kieran played 250. Like maybe if I hadn't come from that family, I would have taken more pride in the 28 games. But it's still I just remember how much it stung every week going into a morning meeting at the Swans and waiting for the team to be revealed and seeing your name not on the board or seeing it off to the side. And now it's writing 28 kind of revealed that a bit to me, but even now I'm kind of startled by how anxious and difficult those years were. And as an 18 to 23, like your brain's not all there either. You're still developing. A fucking kid. It was a stressful time, but not to just be like an embittered player. Like I'm grateful for parts of it. Like I'm really grateful for the things I learned from it, and the resilience that comes from that, and the ability to accept rejection is something that I'm good with now. Like writing, there's a lot of rejection that you get, so a fuckload of rejection. But I'm used to that from seeing that whiteboard revealed every week.
Yeah. And how was the relationship with Kieran through that? So obviously he's captain or co-captain, I think it was as well. Yeah. And he sees his kid brother tries hard out, do everything he can to essentially join him and kind of live out a lifelong dream that you guys would have had as kids.
And I've only reflected on this one lately, but I do feel for how Kieran would have been at that time. Like he would have been in meetings, match committee meetings with Horse and the other captains, and seeing my name thrown around. And he had his own career to worry about, but I know he would have been hurt every time he saw that happen. And I've never really talked to him about if he would ever like speak up or how he felt about it, but I know it would have hurt him. And whenever there's a few times I got dropped, and I would call him, or he'd call me because he'd know beforehand that I got dropped. And I just cry. And I remember he would give some really good advice, but at the same time, like he was the captain of the club, so he had to kind of walk this fine line. And he was my support as well. Kieran was the only support I had because I have a difficult relationship with my parents at that time, and it's only kind of just now got to the point where my parents and I are rekindled and things are quite nice there. But at my lowest time at the Swans, I didn't have parents I could call up and lean back on. My mechanisms were Kieran was my support and doing dumb shit with my teammates, which seems dumb on the surface, but when you inspect it, it's like that was what I needed to do. I just wanted to bond with people and be around people.
How far removed do you feel like from that person now? Because I remember on an interview that I watched previously, you mentioned that I think it was when you were writing 28, you went back to those journals from those times. And I've done the same thing. I've looked back at old journals. I'm like, I don't know who that person is.
Maniac. So when I found my footy journals, and that's why 28 became the book it was, because I was moving houses and found I was a prolific journal keeper, but not in the sense of like writing interesting things from the day. My journals from footy are literally like run hard, get 25 disposals. It's like shit you don't need to remind yourself of. Literally, it would be like line after line of like run, go again, run, like just repeated. And I was trying to And I think that
coaches would say,
but I think to me that was very I was always trying to force myself into a mold of being a footy player, and my way of doing that was to write it to myself so I would believe it. But I found those old diaries, and I was like, who is this person? Like this person is like they are scared of something and they are trying to be something that they're just not natural to them. And the startling thing about those diaries is that was the only diaries I kept while playing. At no point are there like social things mentioned. It's never like I went out to the movies today or I had a conversation with so-and-so. It's always just like had 15 1%ers on the weekend, 3 chase down tackles, best parts of my game were ... And that was it.
So it's specifically a footy journal.
Yeah, but it was specifically a footy journal, but it was my life journal. That was it. So there was nothing else of note. Even like there's a couple of entries that take place on my birthday or people's birthday in my life, and there's not even mention of that. It's just like playing GWS this weekend, starting at half forward flank, make sure I get to the right spot, like stuff like that.
Well, to me, that says that, and this is something we were discussing yesterday, when it comes to identity and whatnot, because we were actually talking about how we introduce you. And as footballers, you always just default to, okay, this guy played 28 games. And to me, it just, with football specifically, it becomes this all-encompassing part of your identity, especially as an ex-footballer. Like for the average Australian, it's like, oh, he's an ex-footballer. Like that's how you're defined.
Yeah.
But I'd assume that is not how you view yourself in your head. Or do you?
I try and let go of the ego around how I want people to introduce me, because I'm always going to get, ex-Sydney Swans player, until I don't know how many books I have to write for people to be like, author. Maybe it's like 10. I don't know. But maybe I should stop writing about footy then, if I want to start being referred to as ex-footy player who's written a book. The thing about mentioning players, like if you watch any footy coverage on TV, it's like the people who are doing the coverage are there, and then beneath them it's like 4-time premiership player, Brownlow medalist. Like it's your credibility in this world is related to your achievements. And very much that was the point of 28, was to say that, normally we get these kind of books, these achievements from people who've done XYZ, played 300 games. And I'm like, that's depriving us of so many views and stories. And, if we only ever get those, 300 game stories, you don't understand what it's like to be sitting in that room waiting for the whiteboard to be turned around and not looking at the team that comes up. You're looking at the bench. And not even just looking at the bench. You're looking at how the magnets are arranged on the bench, because there's a certain order they do them in for emergencies and who's going to be the actual bench. So that stuff to me is like, everyone can relate to being a shit kicker at some point. Like, how many people can relate to playing 300 games? Like 0.00, who the fuck cares?
You have the exact number, don't you? That's
0.0, who the fuck cares?
Oh, really?
That's exactly it.
I think that's what it has on footy tables.
But and that's why, books and storytelling are about, you got to relate to it. You got to relate to some part of it. And I don't think anyone wants to read a story that's like, everything went really well and I won a flag and, then I want another flag. It's like, no, we kind of want to know like that it was a bit shit,
But it is, that is the role that footy plays in our society, I think, is like, it's a just instant connection point for everybody. And I think it is, it's great. And I only got into the first chapter because Aidan had the book for the whole time.
I'll get you guys another copy. I don't have any on me. I should have brought some down. I don't know.
No,
light.
But you mentioned then, if you were to write your next book is not footy related, is that something that you're talking about?
Yeah, for sure. I've written, so PISSANTS for me was done like start of the year. So the publishing world is, even when I finish it, it's in another probably 18 months before it comes out, because there's editing that goes on, and editing takes a year, and then it's done and it's got to wait, and the marketing team does their stuff. So I've been done with that for like 6 months. I haven't thought about it for 6 months.
Wow, it's like a year.
Yeah. But it's great to have these conversations and to come back and to think about it like that. But in that time, then if I'm not doing anything, I feel really antsy. Like I've always got to be doing something. So I started, writing the next book, and I was like, all right, this time, Brandon, like no sports. Like let's steer clear, especially footy. Let's stay away from footy. So I've got the bulk of the next book done, which I did while I was traveling around Europe, which was really nice experience. Every day I was traveling solo. Every day I'd kind of just walk around and then come back to the place I was staying at and would have like an idea for a story and would write this short story. And
awesome.
That was really enjoyable. I went over there saying no writing, and then as soon as I was over there, I was like, actually, I have ideas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, the first book was to show I can write a book. Second book was to show I can write fiction, and third book is so that I can write about not football. I think is the plan. Yeah.
But something that maybe we both spoke about asking you is, it is football related, but at the time you were there, Adam Goodes, so obviously the bullying saga, the racism saga, I guess, essentially pushed him out of the competition, and he's probably one of the greatest players as a Swan in the history of the game. You were there at the club at the time. What was your take, I guess, of that? And I guess more from the four walls of the Swans and being inside the club at the time.
I've written a few things about this, and it does come up in 28. And it was my thing is just with Goodsy. I wanted to focus on how incredible of a person he was, and one of my earliest memories at the Swans. And you know, when you talk about the Bloods culture and there's parts of it that hurt you, there's also parts of it that are fucking beautiful. And Goodsy was like the embodiment of the beautiful parts of the Bloods culture in terms of the level of care he showed towards young players who hadn't proven anything yet, who he could quite easily just like not know your name and whatever, it's Goodsy, like he can do what he wants. But I remember early days doing a touch session, which is just like you're doing handballs, and he would just give me little tips, and he'd like say, put this foot there, put that foot there. Or the way that he could see if you stuffed up, that he might just come and put his hand on your back. Or if he walks past you in your change room, he'd just like stop and actually chat to you for like 5 minutes. So whenever I talk about Goodsy, because when you talk about what happened, obviously like, we know racism's fucking wrong and it's abhorrent what happened. There's a person there. And I think it's often forgotten about that was that is a beautiful person, and somebody who then had to deal with that and still, you know, would carry weight around that. And I don't blame, whenever they're like, Goodsy should come back to the AFL, or somebody's like, often people will ask me like, oh yeah, do you think Adam will ever come back? I'm like, well, fuck should he? Like, it's his choice, and if he doesn't want to, but Goodsy was the embodiment of everything that's good about whatever this Bloods culture thing is, was him, and he's the one who kind of started it too. So yeah, he was one of the most incredible leaders, mentors that I've had.
That makes me so happy to hear. It's like, I mean, that's what everybody says about him too. But it's just
my own thoughts of what I obviously don't know him from Burra. So, but again, just seeing what he was like externally, and obviously then to hear from someone who's actually known him and been in touch with him for extended period, it's good to hear that. Yeah.
Does that sort of stuff, I think we might be coming up on time, but does that sort of stuff, like what's your relationship like with specifically the AFL now? Like, do you follow AFL much now?
Not really. I mean, if it's on, like, I won't sit at home and watch a game, but if it's on at the pub and I'm there, I can watch a game and enjoy it. In terms of following, like, there's still some guys I played with who are doing pretty well. Like Jordan Dawson's a guy I played Resi's with, and I follow his career. Yeah. You know, Nick Newman down at Carlton now, and Tommy Mitchell, and lots of guys who I came through with who have now spread around. I keep tabs on their careers, but I'm a casual fan, and I do enjoy that I can get swept up in, like you said, footy connects everyone together, but it also gives us this thing to look forward to. It really does give us, like, sometimes you've had a shit week, you've had a shit day, but there's a game of footy on the weekend, and it's like, all right, I can just, for 2.5 hours, I can just watch this and ride the highs and lows of this game. Yeah. And that's awesome. So I have an appreciation for it in that regard, but I don't know. I'm not going to many games or things like that. Yeah. It's just a real casual dip in and out. But it's a relationship that's changed over time. Like, I fucking hated footy for a long time. Post getting delisted, I fucking hated it, but I needed to hate it for a while. Yeah. And eventually came back and was like, oh wait, I can find the parts of this that I really enjoy.
Can I tell you, when I was doing my research for this interview, because I couldn't quite remember what you were like when you were playing, so I googled like some highlights, and then this thing came up. Well, because I'm a D's fan, so I'm a D's fan, and then it came up that video of you kicking 4 against us, and then I had this full PTSD moment because I was like, I remember this game, and this fucking guy, he smashed us for one, and like I think it was like your 3rd or 4th game.
Get me like 4 beers and I'll start telling people. So like, you know, the MCG. It was my 3rd game. Yeah, that was that was my 3rd game. I think I was a sub, and I came on early because I think Sam Reid went down, and it was my first time playing on the MCG. Yeah, and those goals were just, we're on Melbourne when Melbourne were pretty shit, right?
Oh man, that was like that was the 10th worst thing that happened to me that week as a D's fan.
But it was very there were a lot of out the back goals and cheapies. I mean, the nice part is Kieran set up my first goal. I think he kicked it to me, which was nice. Not that he meant it to, he was just kicking along and hoping, and I just happened to be there. But yeah, I think after that I had a bit of expectation on me, and that was probably the peak of my career. My third game was probably the peak. I never lived up to that again. But I kicked 4 on the G, like cool, hell yeah.
Mate, I think with this book is not going to be your peak, but you've yet to peak, mate. After this and the next book, I think we're up.
Well, just one thing. So you did mention that 28, you didn't feel like an author as much. Now I know this recently has come out, although you said you've probably been done with it for 6 months. Obviously, the marketing, the PR, and all that come with it. Do you now feel like an author? Do you have that kind of sense of not necessarily accomplishment, but in a sense also achievement that you have put pen to paper in something that you did set out to do following 28 and your memoir?
I really wish I could sit here and say yes, but I think I've always felt I have to work extra hard to get away from just being seen as a footy player with everything I do. And I used to have a manager when I was doing some music stuff who said to me and the guys in the band, he said, he looked at me, he's like, you're going to have to do double everyone else to prove that you're no longer a footy player. And it kind of stuck with me, and I hated hearing it at the time. And if I was just a Joe Blow from the street who'd written 2 books, I could be like, I'm an author and probably feel it a bit more. But I do feel like I've got to do a bit of work still to escape the footy thing. And it's I don't know, maybe it's an inability to take pride as well in what I've done and to stop and smell the roses, and I need to get better at that. And that might come in a few years or something. But for now, I'm still got that itch. It's like I've got to do a bit more. I've got to write a few more books. I've got 2 books out. Yeah, that's something. I'm kind of proud of that. It's nice that people read it and I get serious reviews and literary criticism and do events and stuff. I'm not resting on my laurels, I guess, as well.
Yeah, not to therapize, but that's classic imposter syndrome. Like you've literally got 2 published books, I think that might be.
But I mean, as a reader of both your books, you're obviously killing it, both 28 and PISSANTS. And I think that sense of familiarity and that rawness is what people can relate to. And we spoke about it, last week, and even on this show, people can relate to those things, which obviously draws them to it. Which, as you know, it's not necessarily a footy book, but set in a footy setting, it draws people to it initially, but then obviously it has so many different aspects to it and layers that you wouldn't have anticipated in something like that. So I just want to say kudos to you, mate. That's it's pretty good work.
Yeah, congrats. Your writing style is very it's very fun. Like the start of the book just shoves you right into the action with the team building exercise, which I related to a lot. I've been to a lot of weird team building exercise things. I can't even imagine
hostage situations. Like, what does this have to do with footy? Like, how does it fucking help you on the field?
Well, I always get that vibe when I watch like around Anzac Day and stuff. And I'm like, this is getting a bit like it's a bit of a stretch with some of these analogies.
This is the whole second pod. I'll come back.
We only have
war and
we're
footy.
up on time. But Brandon, Jack, thank you for coming in and hanging out at Zero Hanger, and hopefully we can do it again.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, boys.
Thanks, boys.